Good afternoon to you. 5:06 now, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. The breaking news, the House has officially voted to remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. The vote 216 to 210, 8 Republicans joining all Democrats in voting Kevin McCarthy out. A very short tenure as Speaker, historically short for Kevin McCarthy, 269 days. We're going to be talking to members of Congress this hour on both sides of the vote. We'll begin now with Congressman Troy Nehls. He represents Texas's 22nd Congressional District. He is a member of the House Freedom Caucus and the Judiciary Committee as well, and he joins us on the phone. He voted today to keep Kevin McCarthy in place. Hello, Congressman. Good to have you with us.
Good to be with you.
Tell me, a lot of drama. We witnessed, I thought, a pretty robust debate on the House floor today on this subject. Give me a sense of why you voted the way you did and what happens next here, sir.
Well, listen. I think Matt Gaetz, he very articulate gentleman. I mean, he brought up some very valid points, very valid arguments. But I've always had to tell my friends. I said, if it's not Kevin McCarthy, then who? And I don't seem to ever get anybody else that is united behind another candidate. I mean, what you saw there today, you saw our majority leader, right? You saw him, Steve Scalise, advocating on behalf of Kevin McCarthy. You saw our whip, Tom Emmer, advocating behind Kevin McCarthy. And you saw others as well. And my point is, Jim Jordan was there advocating on behalf of Kevin McCarthy and supporting him. So I don't believe there's anybody else in this conference that could get 100 people behind them, more or less 218. So Kevin McCarthy has a tough job. It's an impossible job. It's the most impossible job in America.
And so you mentioned a member of leadership like Scalise. It strikes me that members of leadership typically stick together, at least publicly in moments like this. But if Scalise's name was put forward as Speaker of the House candidate, don't you think that there could actually be majority support for him? No, there can't be, because Kevin McCarthy, in my opinion, out of the 222, there's probably 190 of them that aren't leaving him. They're just not. I think we demonstrated that, or many demonstrated that, back in January when we went for the initial speaker's race. The most another candidate ever received, and they went and put 5 or 6 of them up. I think the most anybody ever received was 20 votes. Let's just say for today's argument, it doubled or tripled or quadrupled. There's no way, in my humble opinion, unless I don't understand this game, but I'm telling you, I don't think anybody else could even get to 80. So what's going to happen next, though, Congressman, is presumably that we'll begin the speaker votes again, right? That is the next step. So the conferences are separating. Republicans and Democrats are going to meet separately. Then you'll all come back for a floor vote and begin voting on who you want to be the next House Speaker?
That's right. That's exactly what we're going to do. When that occurs, I don't know. But I think Kevin McCarthy comes back as the Speaker, I believe that. I believe because he has such a solid majority of the conference on his side, what you could see is some Democrats not voting for Kevin to be Speaker, but just not voting or just voting present. If the Democrats, you can find a dozen or two of those to just vote present, it reduces the threshold, and Kevin McCarthy won't need 218. He may not need 214. He could win it with 210.
But they wouldn't give present votes for free, would they, Congressman? They would expect something for that.
But probably not. I'm assuming probably not. But it is what it is. If the Democrats and anybody else want to get to work and try to get appropriations bills passed and do what's good for this country and for the American people and address all the different crises that we have across this country, some of them may say, hey, we need to get back to work, because otherwise, I tell you, Vince, we could be voting on this. We had 15. It took 15 times back in January.
Right.
We could be here till November voting on this, and I'm telling you, Kevin McCarthy's supporters, the large majority, they're not moving away from him.
I remember during that battle for Kevin McCarthy to become Speaker, there were a lot of conservatives who were upset that it was even happening. Why is there a fight? Why is anybody trying to prevent Kevin McCarthy from getting the job just yet? But over the course of those 15 rounds of votes, McCarthy did make a number of concessions, to include allowing a single-member motion to vacate, which we just saw exercised today by Matt Gaetz. And we also heard him make a number of promises, to include that he would move along these 12 individual spending bills in a fashion that hasn't been done since 1996. So when Matt Gaetz, you mentioned a moment ago, you thought he made a number of good arguments for his position, and there are things you agree with. Is that one of them, that Kevin McCarthy should have done more to honor that obligation?
Well, this is a very swampy place. There's so many different committees that are involved in these 12 appropriations bills. And I did say in an interview earlier, I said, I think we've got some time management issues here. There's no question about it. I mean, we made a commitment to the conference and stuff that we would take 12 appropriations bills one at a time on the floor, offer amendments, and that really didn't happen because here we are. We have 8 left.
Right.
Well, October 1st is gone. I mean, it was 2 days ago. And here we got all these appropriations bills. So some things I'm thinking, we had an extended recess in August. We all appreciate that. We're back in our districts working and stuff, but maybe we should have been addressing these issues early on and not waiting till come back here till middle of September when we still have 8 appropriations bills that we haven't passed.
And what the American people who are paying attention to this fear, certainly what I fear, is that Congress will do what it always does each year, which is they'll put everything right up against the wall. They'll say, hey, all of these people are going to be put out of work. They're not going to be paid. Checks aren't going to come. It's going to be a nightmare unless you slam through an omnibus spending bill with no visibility and a lot of goodies for lobbyists and special interests. Washington just can't function that way. Our country's dying, don't you think?
I agree, and that's what we've been doing for decades. I think Matt kind of mentioned some of that. And understand, I was one of the 21 that voted against the CR. I've never voted for a CR. I won't ever vote for a CR. And I was one of the 21. And then I had people, wanting to accuse me of not wanting to pay the troops or not wanting the Border Patrol to get paid or concerned about the air traffic controllers and it's going to get dangerous up in our skies. I said, hold on now. Pipe down here for a minute. We passed out of the House an FAA reauthorization in July, and Chuck Schumer's done nothing with it. We passed the defense bill last week of the Homeland Security bill. Chuck Schumer's not going to do anything with it. So the idea with the dishonest media saying that Nehls and a few of the others want to see these guys go hungry and Private Joe Snuffy not get paid, that's just not true.
What you and I we had arranged to have you on prior to all of this news breaking because we wanted to talk to you in part about the stunts that Democrats pulled on this spending bill over the weekend. This gigantic the CR. Democrats include Jamal Bowman. What was the deal here? Jamal Bowman yanked a fire alarm on Saturday. He claims because he thinks that if you pull the fire alarm, he was maybe able to get out of the emergency door. Do you know anyone who buys that explanation?
No, that is a lie. It's a bold-faced lie. And how stupid do you think the American people are? He used to be a high school like a principal or something, and I'm sure that he gave classes to all the students on fire alarms and don't pull fire alarms. You could get in big, big trouble. Hell, Vince, you and I learned that when we were in elementary school, middle school. You don't pull fire alarms. He pulled one in a federal building. It's a felony. He should be charged with it, and we should remove him from Congress. He needs to be gone. He committed a felony. If you're going to go out and charge 1,100 people for being in the Capitol without pulling a fire alarm, they're going to prison today. But you think this guy's got to be held accountable? But I really have no confidence in the corrupt DOJ and the FBI, or really, quite honestly, the leadership of the Capitol Police either, to actually get to the bottom of it and hold this individual accountable.
Yeah, although I am concerned that we haven't seen the actual video footage yet. It's been now it's been a couple days now. We've seen one still image. It is up to the Capitol Police have control of the footage, but ultimately the now former Speaker of the House, he could have actually released this, correct?
Well, what I would do, if I was sheriff, what I would also say is, listen, we're investigating this. Give us a couple more days. Let's look into it. I just, in defense to them, I'd probably say, hey, listen, we need to release the videotape through a FOIA request, but it was, it's only been, 72 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I'd just give it a little bit more time, and I think that's going to be forthcoming.
What do you think he was trying to accomplish, though, by yanking a fire alarm to cause a distraction?
Delay. We were up there. They were trying to had a motion to adjourn. He just tried to delay the official proceedings of the House of Representatives. And that's what you saw with all the Democrats. They went up to the well. They were standing in the well. We wanted to, knock down this vote, and they just delayed it, and you saw them do it again today. So they don't want to put their voting card in the machine. They'll fill out this little card, and they'll do it one by one by one. And the delay tactics was to see what the Senate was what they were doing to negotiate their CR and what was going to come back. So it was a delay tactic. It was deliberate. And number one, he needs to be held accountable and charged with a felony.
Sure, and he was impeding an official congressional proceeding, which, as you point out, has been charged endlessly as a way to lock up their political opponents. Why not a guy who actually was legitimately impeding a congressional proceeding?
Wholeheartedly can't disagree with you. He's lucky nobody got hurt. I think that felony could even be enhanced.
Yeah.
So the problem is this guy's a little off of his rocker. I think he's a little unstable. He talks too loud. He talks too much, and I think he's not a stable individual.
Congressman Troy Nehls, before we let you go here, I want to ask you about the threats to congressmen. I realize everybody seems to be at some threat in D.C., not just lawmakers. We saw a report overnight that Democrat Congressman Henry Cuellar of Texas was carjacked at gunpoint. He's kind of making light of it today, but D.C. is a dangerous area. We've also heard that D.C. police have briefed members of Congress about how to keep themselves safe in this city. Are you concerned about the crime rate and it's skyrocketing inside the nation's capital?
Well, of course. It's very dangerous around here. It's dangerous in all the liberal cities across America. I mean, I know it's crazy in San Francisco and some of these other Chicago, but it's dangerous up here as well. And just America, pay attention now. These are all controlled by Democrat-run cities. These are Democrat mayors, Democrat council members. They're all just crazy, and they don't mind. They don't want to lock up the criminals. And so I talked to Henry before we had this vote, and I said, Henry, I'm praying for you, buddy. I said, as a sheriff, when you have guns pointed in your face, and saying, give me your car, I want your keys. Hell, they even took his sushi. They took his sushi, and that's a life-changing event. Henry's brother, Martin, is a sheriff down there in South Texas, and we were texting back and forth. And I'm just telling you right now that I don't care what color you are, I don't care what side of the aisle you are, or how much money you have or you don't have. No one has a right to come up and put guns, barrels in your face, and demand anything for you. And just very, very fortunate that Henry was able to walk out of that thing without any serious injuries or possibly death.
Yeah, well, they'll believe they have that right if there's never any consequences for doing it, which is exactly what seems to be happening, unfortunately. Congressman Troy Nehls, thank you very much for your time today on a busy day and for helping us cover this breaking news. Thank you, sir.
Why should he want the job after this just happened?
Well, that's a question for him, I guess, not me.
He said he's uninterested. He's already said he's
I haven't heard him say that.
No, he's already.
What has he said to you?
Well, here's what I would say. Here's what I say. I think a lot of members are going to reflect on their thinking after this historic moment. I think anything that people have said before the McCarthy ouster is probably bearing less weight than the way people may be thinking about these questions after the McCarthy ouster.
What is the end game?
Comments about Steve Scalise yesterday and today. Will you yourself nominate Steve Scalise for Speaker of the House?
Maybe. I want to hear from him. I mean, I'm not here to make a judgment on where Mr. Scalise stands with his rehabilitation and recovery. I would give him the deference to be able to decide whether or not he'd like to put himself forward as a candidate, but he'd be the type of person that I could see myself supporting. There are many people, though. I could see myself supporting Tom Emmer. I could see myself supporting Mike Johnson of Louisiana. I could see myself supporting Jody Arrington of Texas. I could see myself supporting Kevin Hearn of Oklahoma. And there are even people outside of the United States Congress like Lee Zeldin.
All right, before we...
Yeah, so that's a little bit... You could hear Neil Cavuto at the end there. That's the Fox broadcast today from moments ago. Quite literally, about half an hour ago. So moments is relative. That's Matt Gaetz stepping out on the steps of the Capitol after the vote to oust Kevin McCarthy. Let me go to Steve in Gaithersburg on line 1. Steve, good afternoon. You are on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, good afternoon, Vince. Like Matt just said, anybody could be Speaker of the House, including Donald Trump. Donald Trump could be installed as Speaker of the House.
It would be amusing for that to occur because of the AOC, her reaction especially would be very exciting. But unfortunately, Steve, that has no chance of occurring because the reality is...
Liberal heads could explode.
Yeah, the reality is there are too many Republicans in the House who hate him. He wouldn't get a majority of the vote because you've got Republicans in there who would never allow it.
But we can only dream, can't we, Vince?
Yeah, we could. I would like to see the reaction. Do it for a few minutes. That'd be funny. And then you could do a motion to vacate.
Just for the reaction. Yeah, just for the reaction.
Yes, just for the reaction. Just for the lulls, as they say. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. He's right.
Thank you, Vince.
As Matt Gaetz also said, it could be somebody on the outside. I saw somebody point out that, well, maybe Newt Gingrich. Maybe, right? He's the last guy to actually balance a budget. The last guy to get a budget passed in an orderly fashion back in 1996. Maybe he should do it. Although, he was calling for Matt Gaetz to be thrown out of the Republican conference this week. He wrote an op-ed for the Washington Post where he made that announcement. Time to throw him out, which is, I think, silly, especially because Matt Gaetz was elected by his constituents in Florida. He's definitely not representing Democrat views here. He's absolutely representing conservative views when he says he wants the government to come under control and stop spending all of our money and printing cash we don't have. He's against de-dollarization. Mark me on that side of the equation, too. I'm against de-dollarization. You know what that means, where the dollar is no longer used as the globe's reserve currency. Country after country is abandoning the dollar because of Joe Biden and the Democrats right now, and because of establishment Washington. They should, of course, be lumped in here. Excuse me. You know something? David in Fairfax on line 5. David, I got to be honest. I think I just took this idea from you. I saw it earlier, and I didn't realize you wanted to make the point on the air. David, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Yeah, you're stealing my thoughts.
I did. You know something? I thought I had seen it. I thought I had seen what you're about to say. I thought I had seen it somewhere else. I didn't realize I literally saw it on the call screen. So my apologies to you, David. Go ahead. You wanted to talk about Newt Gingrich.
Yeah, absolutely. Newt Gingrich, last guy to balance the budget, forced it down Clinton and their administration, got it done.
Yeah.
He was our guy, and he got it done.
Yes.
So Matt Gaetz, when they call the roll, he needs to nominate Newt Gingrich to be the Speaker of the House.
Yeah, that would be pretty gracious, too. Newt Gingrich just called for Gaetz' head. If Gaetz stepped up and was like, I nominate Newt Gingrich, that'd be a good way to, hand over the olive branch. We'll see. Republicans set to meet in their conference. Democrats set to meet in theirs. It's creating a little bit of chaos for us. We were just told Congressman Bob Good is standing us up for the moment, and he will be. Do we have it confirmed? Okay. Tomorrow on the Vince Coglianese Show. A lot more ahead, including your calls on this breaking news day. You have Kevin McCarthy ousted as Speaker. Good afternoon to you. 5:35 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. The breaking news today, Kevin McCarthy has been ousted as Speaker of the House. Some say for now. Congressman Troy Nehls joined us earlier this hour. He voted to keep McCarthy as Speaker. He thinks that McCarthy may very well be back in that role soon. The parties now meeting amongst themselves. We'll see when they actually vote on a new Speaker. The Speaker pro tem, Patrick McHenry today, who was handpicked by McCarthy to have that role, was very angry as he adjourned today's proceedings. He banged the gavel so hard it almost flew out off the handle. He slammed it down. He was very upset today. Meanwhile, the Biden family has some problems of their own today. Hunter Biden showed up in court and pled not guilty to gun charges today. He was back in court after, remember, the plea deal collapsed because 2 IRS whistleblowers showed up in public and said, hey, there are some shenanigans afoot that shouldn't be happening. And then the judge decided to take a closer look at the plea agreement and realized, wait a second, this gives blanket immunity to Hunter Biden? And the Justice Department had to say, oh, no, not blanket immunity. And the Biden people say, wait a second, we were told it was blanket immunity. So the whole thing fell apart, and the DOJ in a CYA, if we can use another acronym, effort, decided to restore the charges. Reuters report, President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, pleaded not guilty on Tuesday to charges that he lied about his drug use while buying a handgun in the first ever criminal prosecution of a sitting U.S. president's child. Hunter Biden, 53, was charged last month with 3 counts related to lying on a federal form to acquire a Colt Cobra handgun in 2018 and for being an illegal drug user in possession of the gun. Biden wore a dark suit and tie during his appearance at the federal courthouse in Wilmington, Delaware, which lasted 25 minutes. Yes, Your Honor, Biden said in response to U.S. Magistrate Judge Christopher Burke asking if he understood the charges and the not guilty plea entered by his attorney, Abby Lowell. He arrived at the courthouse in a motorcade of 6 black sedans. 6 men wearing earpieces who appeared to be Secret Service agents sat near Hunter Biden during the court proceedings and escorted him out of the courtroom through a side door. By the way, you notice all of the theatrics in this piece? He was wearing a black suit and a black tie, and he had Secret Service agents all around him, and they were sitting next to him. That's because they don't really have much to tell you. They just dress it up with a bunch of theater, and somebody was breathing heavily. They don't have much to say. But Hunter Biden did plead not guilty today, which means that bad boy's going to trial. And it means it's happening during the presidential election. And it means it's going to be yet another knock on Biden, which, as a political matter, is a good thing. It's a great thing. That the American people are going to have at least some sense of the corruption of this family based on the fact that there's an ongoing criminal trial involving the president's son. Look, if it's good enough for going after Trump, it's got to be good enough for going after a guy who actually deserves it, Hunter Biden. Trump also in court this week, 2 days in a row, being subjected to this ridiculous claim by the Attorney General of New York that he overstated the value of his properties in order to get a loan, which, I'll repeat for the 6,000th time, no bank has actually alleged. All the places that lent him money, I have no problem with him whatsoever. But Trump being subjected to this because he's running for president and they want to hurt him. They want to hurt him. Yesterday, there was footage of Trump in the courtroom. The judge was smiling like an idiot as the camera faced him. He was like, whoa, like he was having a great time. Like he was so excited that he was near somebody famous and he wanted everybody to see it. He's like, he has to be in my court. You know, actually, he reminded me of the facial expressions. He reminded me of the grand jury forewoman in Georgia, the crazy chick who's like, I just wanted Trump to have to say that I wanted to swear him in and blah, blah, blah. Remember that whole thing? Crazy eyes down in Georgia. The judge looked like that up in New York yesterday. Here's Bill Hemmer and Jonathan Turley over on Fox reacting to the video of this goofy judge.
Professor, I'm sorry, I've interrupted you so many times, but I think we're seeing something that we frankly did not expect. There's a camera in that courtroom. Was that supposed to be, or would they just be simply ushered out when we're gavelled to order?
Well, you're more likely to have cameras in state proceedings, and so it's up to the discretion of the judge.
I have a suspicion about this camera. Have you seen this footage by any chance? My suspicion is that it's a normal-looking camera. It looks like a photo camera, that they weren't wielding some sort of big video camera that you sometimes see on a cameraman's shoulder, that it was somebody holding a regular camera with a detachable lens. And so when they faced the judge, he started mugging for the camera, not like he was on video, but that he thought they were taking photos of him. That's my suspicion anyway, but it's also weird regardless.
Quite frankly, I'm not too sure that both parties would want this. I think that Trump views this as the optics of this as working to his advantage. Look, people looking at this live picture right now will be either filled with rage or they will be thrilled. And that's the problem, is that, you have James now being shown in the background, you've got Trump in the foreground, and it fulfills the narrative on both sides. Trump is likely right. I mean, he's being shown in a sort of tag team series of prosecutions and civil lawsuits where one prosecutor tags another. They're all insisting on these trials occurring before the election.
For obvious reasons. What Turley is clearly implying is that this is election meddling. It's meddling. This goes right back to what I played Victor Davis Hanson audio earlier. They don't care what the rules, in quotes, are. They will change them on a dime. It's all about preservation of power. The only reason that they've dropped 96 charges or whatever the number is now against Donald Trump in 2023, the year of our Lord, is to hurt him in 2024. It's the only reason. Who's missing this? What honest observer is missing this? A reporter asked Trump why he wanted to be there at the court.
Mr. Trump, why do you want to be here in person today?
Because I want to watch this witch hunt myself. I've been going through a witch hunt for years, but this is really now getting dirty between Jack Smith and between all of these DOJ people helping them along. This is a pure witch hunt for purposes of interfering with the elections of the United States of America. It's totally illegal. This judge should be disbarred. He shouldn't be allowed to be a judge.
Yeah, again, that's Trump just not holding back. No hesitancy there. No advice of counsel. Go easy on him. Don't attack the judge. He's just like, going nuclear on the guy. There have been some claims that Trump's lawyers screwed up the fact that it was supposed to be a jury trial. Have you seen this? There were a lot of people pushing this yesterday that Trump only hired what's her name? Alina Habba? Alina Habba is her name, because she's hot. The only reason he only hired her because she's a looker and that she doesn't have much going on up there, and that she should have checked a box to say that the lawyers wanted a jury trial, and now they're ending up with the judge only. They don't have the jury trial that they should have requested. The Trump team is pushing back on all of this. They're saying that this is a total scam, this storyline, that the hot lawyer forgot to check a box. Former President Donald Trump's team pushed back Tuesday on claims from multiple media outlets that Trump's legal team forgot to check a box to request a jury trial in New York, saying the state attorney general filed the case under a statute that doesn't offer the option of a jury trial. Multiple outlets, reporters, and left-leaning legal analysts repeatedly claimed that Trump lawyer Alina Habba forgot to check a box, thereby robbing her boss of the opportunity to present his case to a jury. In a statement to the Daily Caller, Henry Rogers is writing here, a Trump spokesperson rejected that narrative. Quote, the Attorney General filed this case under a consumer protection statute that denies the right to a jury. There was never an option to choose a jury trial. It's unfortunate that a jury won't be able to hear how absurd the merits of this case are and conclude no wrongdoing ever happened, the Trump spokesperson told the Daily Caller. Habba has also argued that checking the box would not have given Trump a jury trial. Quote, I have to address this one common misconception in the press, she said, and unfortunately it just keeps getting repeated, which is that we had this great option to have a box checked for a jury. No, we didn't have that. That's not how this works. They brought it under Section 6312, which is a very narrow, not appropriately used section of the law, which is for consumer protection. Habba said that to Newsmax in an interview yesterday. So Trump still has to be subjected to all of this, and it's no wonder that he's showing up. He obviously realizes that that the more Americans who see this, the more they're wise to what's actually going on. This is election interference, plain and simple. Man, Phil in Fredericksburg calling in now, line 3. Phil, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, look, Vince, all I wanted to say was, they've gone after Trump for 8 years. All he's done is try to be a great American. He's helped America. And this is an attack, an 8-year attack on a single American citizen by all the parts of the Democratic-controlled federal government and state governments of the United States. It's an astonishing attack on an American, and it's got to stop. And I just wanted to say to President Trump, I respect you, sir, and you have an amazing ability to always stand up for what's right, and I just hope you get through this, because now they're lying about you. And you got my vote if you run. We're going to get America back. We're going to make America great again.
Thank you, Phil. Yeah, he's look, the defining feature in Trump is fight, and fight he does, and boy, they hate that. They really do. And one of his defining features is literally just questioning things. Like questioning the establishment, the way things have always been done. Should we do them that way? That was a breath of fresh air, not just buying the company line on so many policies in Washington. And they hate him for that. There's a lot of corruption to be had, isn't there? What have we learned from all of these sagas? Hunter Biden was not alone. Hunter Biden is not the only child of a politician who is exploiting his access to his politician family member in order to enrich himself. There's a lot more people who should be charged for crimes related to that. But they're not. They're protected by this system. Hunter Biden is just the most explicit example of it that we have in public. He's a cartoon character, just bringing in tens of millions of dollars, strung out on drugs, not actually capable of rendering any meaningful service other than being a highway to his father. It's enough. It's enough. So you can see why Trump got elected. Does Trump have weaknesses? Does Trump have things that make people uncomfortable? If you're honest, the answer is yes. Of course he does. But in a match between Trump and Biden, it's not even a question. It's not even close. Of course it's Trump. The average American 4 years ago was in a much better position. And now in all of the polling, you're seeing all of this everywhere. People are saying, no, I'm not better off. There's nobody's better off than they were 4 years ago at all. In some of these surveys, you are seeing people who regret the fact that Donald Trump is gone. There is longing for the Trump years showing up in all of the survey data now. So the effort here, what you're seeing in the courts is explicitly election meddling from the very party that pretends like election meddling is a conspiracy theory. They're doing it out in the open. It's not a theory at all. It's an open, brazen conspiracy. Phil just laid it out. State governments, local governments, federal governments, all Democrats, top to bottom. They're not prosecuting actual crimes. The U.S. attorney in D.C. doesn't care about those. No, they go after their political opponents. They lock them up. They imprison them. The D.C. attorney general going after Republicans, going after conservatives. Not the U.S. attorney, the D.C. attorney general doing that. Not prosecuting juvenile crime offenders. A great piece in the Washington Examiner on that today. You've got, what's his face? The guy from Alvin Bragg from Manhattan making up a ridiculous charge. He was the first to go. Usually Julie Swetnick comes at the end. He came first. Julie Swetnick started the whole thing. And that, I think, opened a lot of people's eyes to like, this is crazy. Even you had corporate news outlets, these lefty corporate news outlets who were saying, Alvin Bragg is venturing into some totally uncharted waters here. I'm not sure this one's going to work exactly. And yet it continues. Yeah, they're meddling in the election. And if that doesn't work, they're trying to remove him from the ballot. They have petitioned the states all across the board, boards of election, secretaries of state, remove Trump from the ballot because he's an insurrectionist. That's what they claim. The 14th Amendment, Section 3, allows us to remove him. Of course, the section of the Constitution that they're citing is actually dedicated to racist Democrats from the Civil War. That's what it's about. It's not about Donald Trump using his free speech and using the courts to challenge the nature of elections in 2020. That is not in no way an appropriate use of that. But it goes back to what Victor Davis Hanson said. It's all negotiable. In the left's mind, they'll dispense with the Constitution at every turn. And then when they think they can exploit it to hurt their political opponents, to literally rob people of the right to choose who they want for president, they'll do it in a heartbeat. And that's what's happening now. All right, a lot of your calls coming in on the breaking news today. Kevin McCarthy ousted as Speaker of the House. Who will be the next Speaker? Not clear yet. Let's go to Sam in Alexandria, line 6. He's been waiting patiently. Hello, Sam.
Hey, brother, how are you doing today? Hopefully you'll enjoy the great evening that it looks like it's turning out to be. Man,
I love this time of year. I got to be honest. The fire, it's grass growing season. Get a bourbon, get a cigar. It is good.
Got the fire pit going. You got it right, brother. I tell you what, honestly, somebody needs to slap these Republicans in the head. Their timing is horrific. The earlier callers talking about Newt. Newt converted me from a liberal to a conservative because I looked at everything he said and I said, you know what? I agree with all this stuff because he knew how to message. And these idiots, I'd like to go to Matt Gaetz and says, okay, so what's the plan, dude? You just wanted to get rid of him. What's the backup? What's the plan? Who's number 2? And for him to say, well, I could vote for this and that. No, you don't throw somebody out without a backup plan, idiot. It just frustrates me that Republicans put themselves in this position continually. And, of course, it's right before the holidays, and they'll extend this budget thing right before Christmas.
Yeah, no, that's right. And what I've been saying here, Sam, I appreciate that viewpoint, and I'm hearing a lot of it today. What I've been saying is, McCarthy did make a number of promises here. And the consequence among those promises was that one person can move a motion to vacate. Matt Gaetz did that this week. A number of Republicans voting to remove Kevin McCarthy. Among them, two of our guests tomorrow. Congressman Matt Rosendale will join us, and Congressman Bob Good will be here tomorrow as well. We'll keep on this story, the breaking news, the historic removal of a Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, out. And now the parties are in their respective corners. I assume Republicans are doing a little bit more squabbling.